Hi everyone, Paula McCoy, Colors for Earth. Last night when we were doing our Facebook Live and YouTube Live, we had some internet issues, and so what I've done now is go back and I'm finishing those projects. So I thought I would just videotape it, put it out there so you guys would have a clean video. So let's get started and I'll show you how I finish these. Okay, so we're going to start by finishing up some of these. You can see that I've got the wings and the bodies on those, but I've got another piece here, so I'm going to go back over how to do the wings. This is medium blue Folk Art multi-surface color. The multi-surface has a sealer in it, so you don't have to seal. It's kind of a semi-gloss look to it. Okay, you can see how it kind of has a little bit of a sheen to it. Not the sparkly, not the treasure gold colors that are accented around the edge, but the actual butterflies and flowers themselves. Okay, so let me get all this set up. So you'll need your square shader at number 10 or number 12. This is Donna's brush, Donna Dewberry, and then this one is the Kala brush that we carry on the website. It's in the 2200 series. Number 8 or number 10 would work great. Always wet your brush, blot it on a paper towel before you start. Make sure you get all the water out of it, and then I like to load the lighter color first and then go over and side load into the darker. Work it back and forth on your palette quickly so that it blends those colors together. And you can see that here, how it goes from dark to light. So I'm going to zoom in and show you that. So a lot of times I will load the brush twice on my first load just to make sure I get enough color in there. And then we're going to do the M stroke or wiggle stroke, or Donna calls it the shell stroke. I'm going to keep the dark to the center or near the body and press and lift up, press and lift up, press out further and lift up. So you can do this as individual strokes. Press again, lift up, and one more time. Press again and lift up on that chisel edge. Okay, so I've got a little bit of an area there that I don't like on that last stroke, so I'm going to come at it from a different direction. A lot of it's because this is on canvas. So I'm going to fix this one, make sure you have your brush in the proper position, and just lightly put that on there. Every time you do an area, you need to reload for each one of those strokes. And here we go again. So press down, lift up to chisel, press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, and press and lift. So you can do it all together, or you can break it up into individual strokes, whatever works for you. A lot of times for beginners, the individual strokes just gathered together and overlapped work better. All right, so let me find another one. Okay, so you can see that the first step was to put the wings on like we have here, and then you can see the other steps as they're finished. Okay, so this is the first, and then there's your second step, would be adding a second wing on the top. So I provided for you on the blog of the Colors for Earth website this PDF that you can print out with all the colors, the picture of the ornaments, and then the step outs. So hopefully this will help you complete your project. Okay, so now what we're going to do is get some more color on the brush, and then I'm going to show you another butterfly on an ornament. It reacts differently, the color does, on the ornament compared to the canvas. The canvas is a porous surface, so it grabs the product, where on the ornament it's vitreous, meaning it cannot absorb into it. And so it just kind of slides. You definitely want to make sure that for every stroke, every element that you put on there, you reload your color on your brush, because if you don't, your colors are not going to be as opaque as what I get on mine. Okay, so we just did those same 2 strokes, and you saw that I had a little bit of color that I didn't want there, so I took my finger and just slid it off. I try to do the butterflies like opposite, across from each other, so I've got one there. This is a frosted ornament that I applied Plaid's frost to it. I sponged it on, and it gives it a texture. It's a little harder to paint on because it is textured, so your color doesn't want to, it's bumpy, so your color is going to have highs and lows. So you're going to have to work a little harder to apply your color and get it solid on there. But I like to go across from each other when I'm doing the butterflies. So I'll have blues across from blue, and then the purples across from each other. Try to make sure that you tilt it and turn it into a different direction. You don't want them all exactly the same. So some are going up, down, sideways. So definitely, in this one I have flipped and done it from the left side, and you may find that one side is easier for you. And I would just practice that on paper first. So here I'm just doing the individual strokes again. Because of that texture, it's going to be easier to do it that way on this particular background. If you need to, you can use floating medium when you're working on canvas, wood, or possibly even on this textured ornament. But you do not want to use it just directly on the slick glass or plastic ornaments. Okay. So we're going to add the second, or the front wing, doing the same stroke, just less pressure. Same product. You can add white to the light blue corner of your brush if you would like, if it's not showing up. Now on this black background, some of the black is coming through, so it shows up nicely. Okay, so I'm going to wait for the ornaments to dry. If the slickness, because the ornaments are slick, they don't dry as fast, so that's why I work on multiple things to allow for the drying time between them. So I've got light lavender here, again multi-surface folk art paint by Plaid. Excuse me. And then I've got violet pansy. So I'm going to put front wings on that butterfly that I have sitting there. I've got the back wings on, so now I'm going to put the front on. Again, grab your square shader and pick up your light and your dark. Blend that into your brush. And then keep your light to the outside, just like you did before. And as long as those strokes are smaller, you'll be able to see them. If for some reason you can't define or see the difference between the front and the back, you can always add a little bit of white to the corner of your lighter color, and that'll make it stand out different from the back ones. So on this one, I reversed the back wings. I had the dark to the outside, light to the inside. So play with it and see what you like. So I reversed it so that I could see it. I put the dark to the center and then the lighter to the outside. Again, you could use white on that, add white, so you'd still load with your two colors, your light and your dark, and then just corner load in some white and blend it on your palette, and that's going to make that lighter purple or blue, whatever color you're using, be a shade lighter, and it will show up more. Okay, so this is Donna's number 6 square shader. It's a smaller one to do some of the flowers. We've got the 8 in the 2200 series color brush, and those, again, the color brushes are on the Colors for Earth website. So I'm loading back with my purples. Because the brush is small, a lot of times it's hard to get both colors on there. So you may just have to work it a couple of times before you can see both colors. And we're going to do a wedge stroke or a slider stroke. So you press down, pull, pull, and lift off on the chisel edge. So you get like that. It looks like a leaf, but we're doing the petal. And I'm keeping the dark to the inside. And I do it in a Y shape to start with. That way I can evenly space, and you'll see. So I'm going to do 2 side by side for the top of my Y, and you want to make sure that you don't turn the brush. You're just pressing down, pulling, lifting off to the chisel edge. I like to pull my strokes towards myself. You'll find that easier when you start if you're a beginner. So press, pull, and slide. There's the Y, and now I have 2 open sides, and those are evenly spaced, and I'm going to add a petal in the middle of both of those. So press, pull, and slide. Reload for every stroke. That's really important when you go to your ornament. Dark to the center, press, pull, and lift. Okay, so on this one I'm just going to add a couple of petals off to the side. Press, pull, and lift. So it's like it's running off the edge. Just to kind of fill in that space. Don't forget you're going to have blue and purple flowers. You may want it all blue. That's your choice. So what I've done is clean my brush, and I'm going into my light blue, and then I'll pick up the dark blue on the one corner, blend it on my brush, and then do the same stroke. Dark to the center, press, pull, and lift. So this is a wedge stroke. So do your Y, press, pull, and lift to a point. And you want to make sure that you lift off of your surface slowly. You don't want to do it quickly. Remember, the airplane does not go to the end of the runway and stand straight up. It gently comes off. So as you're coming off of your surface, whatever it is, you want to slow down, and that way you can pull in that tail. So you've got your Y, and now you're going to fill in your other 2 petals on the side. Press, pull, and lift to a point. Dark to the center, press, pull, and slide. And you can see on the black how I've got the lines on there. So I drew a Y, and then I just drew a line in between on the other. So that's kind of your guide. And that works really well when you're starting out. But you can see I still go through and I paint it as the Y to make sure I have my spacing. And then I come back and fill in the sides. press, pull, and lift. Reload. Press, pull, and lift. We will add leaves to these later. It's the same stroke. So what I'm showing you here is if you only want one, the blue one has 2 wings on the top and the bottom, and then the purple one just has 1. So if you're a beginner and maybe you don't want you like what you've got with the 1 stroke there, then don't mess it up. Don't add a second one if you're unsure. Just use just 1 wing on the top and the bottom. You don't have to do it like I did. Alright, so same thing, dark to the center, and I'm just doing it in little mini steps, doing each stroke 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I can wipe off. So you want to be able to see some of that dark on the back petals. So just don't put as much pressure down on your brush. It's the same size brush I used for the background. And once again, I'm trying to looking where my purple one is because I want to do a purple one on the opposite side. And like I said, make sure you turn it into a different direction. Press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, press and slide off. Reload for every stroke. And that's considered 1 stroke because you did the shell. And press and lift, press and lift, press and go down longer, and press and lift and come off. Alright, so that will have to dry. I'm using the little like condiment cups to set these on. You can use a bubble palette also, anything. You can use an egg tray, egg crate to lay them on, anything that will hold them and keep them from rolling while one side dries. Alright, so I'm going back in and adding my front wings on this purple one while I've got purple in my brush. Press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, press and come off. So you can see that you can do it in individual strokes. You don't have to keep moving it quickly. And like I said, sometimes when you do that as a beginner, it's easier. So now on this one, I need another purple one across from the other one. So I'm going to reload and add. Press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, and come off. So the more you do it, you will get more comfortable with doing it in 1 continuous stroke, okay? But as you can see, you can layer those together as long as you are overlapping them. I think it's the biggest key. Okay. So I'm just going to clean up that stroke. I didn't like the way it finished. If you don't like something, you can wipe it off with a damp paper towel. You could use baby wipes. You can also use hand sanitizer on a paper towel. That works also. Okay, so I'm going to just continue. Now I'm going to do some of the leaves. So I'm using citrus green. And once again, this is all multi-surface. And then I'm going to use sap green for my darker color. So as long as you've got a dark and a light. And I'm going back to the number 6 square shader. Once again, it's a smaller brush, so load in your lighter color, which is citrus, and then side load in sap, blend those colors. You're going to do the same stroke that we did on the petals. So I put the dark corner down near the flower and still, again, press, pull, and lift. Usually I do 2 or 3 in a grouping on one side and then 1 on the other. You want an odd number is what you're looking for. So if it's a larger area where you can put 3 on one side, 2 on the other, on this particular one, I can only do 3 and 1. So it depends on how much space you've left yourself. So as you're placing those flowers, stop and think about that too, that you need to be able to put some leaves in there if that's what you're going to add. So press, pull, and lift. Reload for each stroke. This one I'm just going to go off the canvas. You know, we learn by hearing, seeing, and doing. So definitely get out a sketch pad and practice these strokes. Press, pull, and slide. Press, pull, and slide off. Okay, so it's going to be the same on all of them. Corner load. These particular round ones were magnets. Someone asked where I got these. These are little 3-inch canvases, square and round. I believe they were from Michael's craft store. And I think I got them online. I think they had 3 or 4 in a package. And you can put those little, they're small miniature easels that you can do both of those and send it as a little gift, which would be very nice. Okay, I don't like that stroke, so I'm going to re-stroke it again. Okay, so continue to do all of those leaves. And I'm just going to speed up the camera while I do those. Okay, so I'm going to go back now to the ornament and add my other butterfly and the other wings. So go back to your larger brush, your 10 or 12 square shader. Work those 2 colors on your brush before you go to your piece. You want to make sure on the ornaments where they're slick or on glass that you allow the first coat to dry on the back wings before you put the second or the front wings on. If you don't, it's going to just wipe off your color. It has to harden and dry before you can add that second stroke on top of it. Need just a little bit more blue. So just re-corner in both colors and work that in and blend it. Press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, and come off. So I'm going to add the one across from it. I was talking about doing one opposite on each opposite side, do one of each color. You know, you could even do a yellow and a red, which you would end up with an orange tone in the middle. Which would be very pretty. I mean, any color combination, just a light and a dark is what you're looking for. And slide off. Okay, so those will have to dry before I can add the front ones on. And if you're looking for a full tutorial on my, while I'm doing these, I'm going to tell you about this. I did some Zoom classes. It would have been October of 2021. and there are downloadable class files if you would like to purchase those on how I do some of my flower ornaments. And then that's a basic one, or beginner it's called, and I will put the link in the description of the video. Then I had an advanced one where I did a pansy ornament, a peacock eye ornament, and a paste ornament. The paste is a product of Colors for Earth, and it can be used on fired and non-fired things. So those are available on the website. Check those out. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel while you're here. Click the bell so you get notifications when I upload or I go live. Okay, so now we need to go back to the larger brush because I use the larger, the 8 or the 10 square shader. Dampen your brush with water, blot on a paper towel, and just double check to make sure that water's not on your ferrule of your brush, because it'll run down and then it'll make a runny mess on your piece. Let me get out some more purple, and we're going to do the front wings on the purple one. So again, work that color into your brush, the light color, then grab some of the dark, add it, blend, blend, blend. And when you're blending, do it quickly. Don't do it just real slow, 1, 2, 3. You need it back and forth. That helps push the color and variegate it from one color to the other. Okay, so I'm also going to add these purple flowers. Again, you're going to do your Y. And that's why when you have no pattern, there's no way to really get a pattern on here. So if you do the Y, it helps you just stay focused on where your strokes are supposed to be. Don't forget to leave room for the center. So you don't want them all touching in the middle. You need them out just a little ways. So I've done my Y. Now I'm going to go back and fill in the side petals. Okay, make sure you turn your piece so that it's comfortable for you. Don't try to take your brush and work it upside down, basically. So turn it so it's comfortable. If you're comfortable with pushing your strokes and pulling, then you can do both. But I still do the Y and then fill in the side petals. And I'm loading for every single stroke. I cannot stress that enough on these ornaments because of being slick, plastic or glass. You definitely need to load for each stroke. There's the Y. And now reload and come back and do your other 2 petals. And I always keep the dark to the center. You could change that if you wanted. There's no rule. I just think the dark to the center makes it look more gathered. It gives it more dimension. Watch your hands so that you don't stick your fingers in something wet. So you can see I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to hold it to apply my next flower. You also need to make sure that you can set it down after you've painted an area. So you can't go too far, you know, like a half or a third. Set it down, work on another ornament. That's why I usually do like 10 to 12 at a time. And by the time you're done with the last one, you can go back to the first and you're good to go again. So do your Y, reload. Fill in your side petals. Press, pull, and lift to a point. Press, pull, and lift to a point. Alright, so I'm going to do some little buds that come off the swirly jewels. So I'm just going to do 2 strokes that are overlapping each other to get a little bud. So you can use the jewels as part of your elements. And so that would be like the jewel would be a stem. And there's another piece over here on the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add, press, pull, lift, reload. Press, pull, lift. And then we'll bring some leaves off of there also when it's dry. So, like I said, make sure that you can set it down. Okay, so I'm just going to complete the rest of these wings and other elements and speed up the video, and then I'll be back. Okay, so some had asked what I used for the inside of my ornaments. So this is the Glitter It glue, which we also sell on colorsforearth.com. I will put a link into the description. So I roll it with the glue first, dump out the excess, and then I use that iridized or iridescent glitter. I found it on walmart.com. You can buy multiple colors of it, and then it's a fine glitter. You can get glitter at all different types of places. That one was just, you got more for your money. It was like 16 ounces or a pint of that for like $9, I believe it was. Okay. And remember, this one is the one that I did frosted. So whether you buy a frosted ornament, which is much smooth, of course, where this I applied it with a sponge, and it has more texture to it. Okay, so I'm going to continue to finish these up and speed up the video. Okay, so I'm going to add some more leaves on some of these flowers. Don't forget to reload for each stroke, because it will make a huge difference on the application of the color. Okay, so this is the wedge stroke or slider stroke, depending on who you've been taught from. There's different names for a lot of different strokes out there in the industry. But I find that if I load for every single stroke, I will have better color. And I just stuck my finger in that one, so I need to go back over that. So keep an eye on that. If you can hold on to your jewels, that's usually the easiest thing for me. Load for every stroke. You may not think that'll make a difference, but it really does. Because that's one of the most frequently asked questions is, why does yours look more solid, more opaque? And that is the reason, is because I load for every single one. Okay, so I'll need to let that dry before I can add any more. I've got glitter everywhere. I should have changed to the smaller brush to do these, but I'm going to go ahead and sneak one on there so I don't have to load. We're just going to bring that one off the side. Okay. Okay, so now we need to put some bodies on some of these butterflies. So I'm going to use licorice. Sure I am. Okay. And then I'm going to refresh my greens because I'll need some stems. Put a little bit of both of those greens back out. So what I like to use on the body is the, this is one of our brushes, Colors for Earth. It is the 3600 liner series. It's a Kolinsky hair, which is softer than the Taklon that I've been using in the square shaders, but it really just works the best. Again, make sure you wet your brush and blot it out on a paper towel to remove the excess moisture. Let's just grab this one here. And then I'm going to slightly thin that black down. Just one corner of it. There's no reason to thin the whole pile of color. Just thin one corner because the water's going to start to evaporate and you're just going to have to thin it again. Okay, make sure you have a generous load on there. Start at the top where the head would be. Press, pull, lift, 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 and lift to a point. Then I'm going to turn it around, load again, put the point to point, and then I'm going to press down and lift straight up. So press and lift. So the more pressure will determine that size, okay? Then I'm going to make sure this is thinned out with some water, load that brush really well, and we'll pull in some of that wing detail, just staying up on the tippy toes. I'll turn this sideways so that you can kind of see. I'm just barely touching the surface. Always pulling those strokes towards me. Make sure that those are different lengths. You can outline if you wanted to. Detailing really is your signature, I think. A lot of people can look at my pieces just by the way I paint or by the way I detail and know it's mine. So I did just lines, and then I'm going to do that little pressure stroke at the end. Okay. Now, remember, well, you may not have been able to see it really well. Last night I put, and I'll do it on this one, a black body on here, but because it's a black surface, press, pull, lift, 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 lift to a point. It's hard to see. It is kind of shiny because the multi-surface against this black canvas, you do see a difference, but it's hidden. So what I did last night was put some treasure gold on that body, and we'll do that again also. Just multiple little tiny fine lines, different lengths to make it look gathered. And then your antennae. I'll make sure I have a nice point. Do that little pressure stroke at the end. Here's another one. Press, pull, lift, 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 lift to a point. Press and lift straight up. Okay, so we've got that one done and that one. We need these. So what I'm going to do is continue painting, but I'm going to speed through. You see how that one got a little transparent? So I didn't have enough on my brush. I'm going to speed through the video as I work on these, but it'll still, I'm just not going to talk. That way it won't be as long. All right. And then I will be back when I do something new. So now we're going to do the stems to the leaves, and so I'm pulling in a stem and a center vein to all the leaves. You can add some curlicues if you want also. I thin the color down when I do that, so I'm going to take a little bit of both just to make kind of a middle tone. Work that in. So I took a little bit of both here. Sorry, I didn't realize I was out of camera. So a little bit of both, a little bit of water, thin it down so that you make a middle color. It's not dark, it's not light. And you're just pulling in a stem. To your leaves, and then if you want some curlicues, I'll come back and do that when it's not wet. I'll be able to show you better. So have those stems coming out from underneath the flower. Excuse me. If your brush starts skipping, you either need more product on your brush or it possibly needs to be thinner. Could you do this with the chisel edge of your square shader when you were putting them in? Absolutely. I'm just showing another way that might be easier for beginners to do. Now remember, when you're on your plastic, you need to load. You can probably get one flower with all of the, and then reload. You don't have to load for each stroke. And just remember, you've got to be able to set it down to dry. So you're only going to be able to do a portion of this. And then I'm going to stop and let that dry. And I don't think we put any flowers on that one yet. Nope, we didn't. Okay, so I'm going to use yellow ochre for the centers of my flower. And they're just dotted on. You can use a dotting tool, a stylus. I wouldn't use the handle of a brush, only because depending on the size of the handle, it would be too large for these delicate flowers. So we have dotting tools. They come in a set of 3. This is the number 2 size in that kit. And those are on the website, colorsforearth.com. So you can see you're just adding. Now this one I used 2 different size brushes to do those flowers. So this was the 6 and this was like the 8. And you can see just by changing the size, then you're going to get a different size stroke. There's glitter everywhere. Imagine that. So when you're using the dotting tools or whatever you're dotting with, okay, if you load for each dot, you will get the same size dot. If you continue to use what's on the tool, then you get what's called graduated dots, meaning they go from large to small. I'm going to add a couple over here. So they are called graduated dots when they go down in size. I think you can really see it on this one. So the first one's larger, the next one gets smaller. You can even turn the tool on the side to use the excess product that's on the side of the tool. All right, so hopefully without sticking my finger in anything. All right, so let's do, now on the plastic surface, you know, you may need to load your tool a couple of times. You're just going to have to play with it and see. You don't want to jam the tool down so hard that you end up scratching off some of your product. I've got some leaves I need to put up here on this one. And I think I can do this one and then we'll stop because it will have to dry one side. Okay, and that only had butterflies. All right, so I'll wait to finish that. So what I had done on here was add the treasure gold strokes. So what I want to do is you can use either light amethyst. There's two different purples that are close in color. One's a little more blue, one more red, and purple topaz. Okay, so either one of those work. These are the 2 ounce and this is the 4 ounce size. So unless you're going to do a lot of production stuff, I say go with your smaller one till you know. Or, you know, I got a gold and silver are the 2 main ones, so those would be really great to get your larger sizes. The blue quartz is what I used on the edges to make those pressure strokes on the wings there that have that shimmer to them. I use silver or platinum in the background for the comma strokes. Then I use the purple on the edge of the purple wings. Okay. I personally like to use out of the lid, and that's just my personal. If it's your product, you can do that. Classroom situation, no. I do not let anybody use out of my bottles. I would put it out if you're teaching. Or maybe, and it's very stringy, so you've got to kind of take care. Get rid of that dry. Because it's going to string and you'll have it over everything before you know it. So I give it a little bit of a shake because I like to use out of the lid. That way it gets some on the lid. Some of mine still have the foil on the top and some of them don't. I've used them so much. Going back to that liner, number 2. So on this guy, I've already put some of the amethyst ones on there, so I'm going to grab some of the blue. Plus I need it for the wings anyway. So we're going to, and when you pick it up on your brush, okay, you need to be very careful because it'll string also. Take care when loading. And we're going to do just some of those little pressure strokes out here on the tips of the wings. That gives it a little bit of shimmer. You could use just silver or gold, depending on what you like. I prefer silver with blues, with the cooler tones, and then gold with the warmer colors. but I also like silver. So you can come in and add a few of those comma strokes, press, pull, and lift. Press, pull, and lift. Whoops, I lifted too quickly. Did you see that? So I think I said it earlier, but if I didn't, remember that the airplane does not go to the end of the runway and stand straight up. It comes gently off of the runway. So when you're lifting those strokes off of your piece, take time to come off of there. Don't be in a hurry, and you'll be able to have a cleaner, smoother stroke. And with the Treasure Gold colors, because they're thick, you need to take your time so you don't string some of that color and make a mess all over your piece. And basically lift your brush up, keep it in place, and then let the product come off so that you're not stringing it around. So when I come up, I'm staying in position to make sure there's nothing left and there's not a string as I move across my piece, because when you move, then you're just going to transfer that. Not enough on my brush. Press, pull, and lift to a point. And let's do one down here. Press, pull, and lift. Press, pull, and lift. So I'm adding a little bit of both colors on the pieces, just because I have the flowers in one color, the butterflies in another. So when you come off that tail, pull, pull, lift, lift, I'm slightly turning. I mean, just a smidge, like an eighth of a turn, just to kind of get a tail and pull all those hairs back together. If you have a good brush, it will do that for you. And if you keep it clean and take care of it, a brush will last you forever, depending on the surface that you're painting on. Now on ceramic bisque, because it's so harsh, you know, they're not going to last as long. The other thing that I did not mention was when you're cleaning your brushes, clean them with water, and then don't use, there's different brush cleaners out there. Plaid makes a good one. It's blue in color, and I don't have one. Oh, yes, I do. Handy. Okay, so this is Brush Plus. It's by Plaid. So put a little bit in the palm of your hand, rinse your brush in water, and then put it in the palm of your hand and work your bristles in that so that it pulls the color out. Rinse it and repeat until you see no color come out of your brush. Okay, that's or just a bar of ivory soap also is good. Do not use Dawn detergent. Dawn has a degreaser, which is great for duck feathers, but it also can loosen glue and the hairs and cause your brush to separate. So I'm not sure that, just be careful if you're using that. Okay, I don't recommend it at all. If you've got just a bar of ivory soap, you can just wet your brush and work it back and forth on that soap, and you know, and rinse it and keep repeating until you see no color, and that works really well. Okay, so Let's go over here. I've got the blue in my brush, so let's add it here on this guy. And see my antennae, I probably should have put those on last, because I gotta try to, I may have to go back with some black on there. But see, when you lift, that starts to string. I don't know if it'll show on camera or not. So press and lift, and there's a little bit of a string to it, so you need to stay in place until that snaps and you don't see it. Because if you pull away, it could string across your piece. So that's why you'll see me go a little bit slower on those. Okay. All right, let's go over here and do these. Now I will not finish all of this, but I want to do enough that, like I said, you learn by seeing, hearing, and doing. And the more you see something done, you may catch, the first time you see it, you catch one way of doing it, and then the next time, and by the third time you see something, everything should just click into place. So you kind of hear and maybe see half of what I'm showing you the first time. Second time you hear the other half, and then by the third time, hopefully you've got it down by then. Okay. All right, I've got one more butterfly over here. And then we're going to go on to the next step. Okay, now because this one is on black, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with this other one. And I accented the body. Probably should accent the antennae also. So I'm pulling it almost exactly over it, but not quite. There's like a black halo around it. Okay, I've got a hair on the end of my brush. Sometimes when you have a new brush, it'll shed hairs. And then I'm going to attempt to lightly accent. And then I think I'll just leave the tips with the black on it there. I think that'll be fine. So remember, same brush, 3 different size comma strokes, color, pressure, and motion. So depending on how much pressure you put down will determine the size of that stroke. Okay. All right. Remember that some of the wings, I only had 1 wing. Some of them I had double. So then you come back in and you fill in with your accent of your silver behind everything. Let me rinse this and do a couple of purple wings real quick so that you can see that, since I've got it out. And once again, the glitter goes everywhere. I find glitter for months after doing this. It's amazing. Okay, Okay, so I'm trying to really load that purple. Again, this is the light amethyst, treasure gold. So there's different 13 or 16 different colors in the treasure gold. And these are just pressure strokes, so you have to have your brush loaded full enough that when you sit it down, you get that little teardrop, or it's almost like a miniature comma. So press and lift straight up. There's no pulling, there's no turning, just press and lift up. So if you don't, and I'm reloading on the tip of that brush every time, because if you don't have enough on there, you're not going to get that fat little chunky teardrop. Press and lift up. Press and lift up. Press and lift straight up. Press and lift. Okay, so I need to come in and accent these antennae. And then you can like even come over here and just accent on the corner. I should leave room for some silver. I get in the rhythm and then I forget, oh, yep, I need some of that in there. So let's do, and it's really to your liking. Like I said, this is almost like a signature of your signature, basically. You put your own little spin or twist on it, so to speak. I say, remember on this one, I reversed the front wings and put the dark to the inside, and the back ones have the dark on the outside, so you could see the difference. So play with it. There's all kind. I mean, use yellow and red, and you'll get an orange kind of where they meet. So think about your colors, how they're going to mix when they're blended on your brush. I'm going to go ahead and do these on the wings real quick while I've got my brush loaded. Okay, so I'm going to go into the platinum or the silver. So your strokes with the treasure gold are next to the last thing. The last thing is to put your jewels on. See how that strings? It's went all the way across my plate. That's what I was talking about. Some colors are worse than others. That's what you need to watch out for. So you can kind of see, I think there you can see the like iridescent type look to it. It's a metallic, which is very cool. And whether or not you want any curly cues or tendrils. Okay, I'm going to stop because otherwise I'm going to get it all over, but you can kind of see where all of those are. They're just nestled in and around. You know, you could even, I'm looking at this black one here. The Treasure Girl does take longer to dry. Just because, well, for one thing, I'm putting it on pretty thick. And it's a thick product. So I think I'm going to add a few of the silver or platinum. That kind of just ties that. Remember, we had to do that on the body. So it kind of ties that in. That's kind of a fun addition. Just very light touch. It's going to grab on there and just give you that shimmer. Okay. And you could do that on the other ones too if you wanted. Let's do one and see if we like it. It's really up to you how much bling. Not too bad. Now I would go back and clean up the body with your black. Whoops, water in my brush. Not a good thing. I'm just grabbing the water on the paper towel. That's how you correct that. Okay. Now on this one, I showed you, if you wanted to, you could outline one side of your petals. I wouldn't do both sides. Think about, you don't want it to overpower the design, but if you needed to clean up an edge, this would be a way to do that. Or if you just like more black, you could do it on one side of your leaves also. I put it on the same side. Okay, and then I will go back and sign the backs of all these before I ship them to the winners that won last night. Okay, I think that's it other than the jewels. Let me put this up. And then I'll show you real quick. I like to take a toothpick to put my jewels on. See all that glitter everywhere. Anywhere, everywhere. Okay, so let's look at this one. So because I had blue and purple, then I kind of randomly placed blue and purple jewels. You could do all with just maybe the silver. This looks like it's a similar color. And then the purple, I brought out a darker purple. This one I've got a lighter. You just need to make sure you have enough of whatever color you're going to do, okay? Some of these sheets of jewels, like this is Crafter Square. I think this was from Dollar Tree. I bought on Amazon, but they have, I think you can see on this, it's a strip of adhesive that goes from one to the other. So you have to cut them apart. So they're in strips this way. So what I do is just come in the opposite and cut a few so that I'm ready. Same thing on these. These are actually going this direction, so I cut against it. Okay. And then if I can do this without getting my fingers in it, I would come underneath the jewel with the toothpick. That way it picks up on the sticky, okay? And then drop it. Then put it in place and press. I can't press hard because I've got wet product all around. And then you might grab one of your blue. Where did I cut that? And place it there. Like I said, you could, I usually space them about a ½ an inch apart. There is approximately 30-ish of those in the background, so look at how many you've got, especially if you're going to do, let me set this down, if you happen to buy a sheet that's like this, you've only got so many of one size. I typically don't put two different sizes unless I just get right down to the very end of it and I have to. Here's another sheet. This was from Amazon. There was multiple colors in here, so I can guarantee you it's going to take almost all of those 3 rows of the large ones to do one ball. Okay, so there's 3, 6, 9, 10. So yeah, average of 30-ish. Okay, depends on if you have the swirls on your ornaments or not. So then I could do another one with the next size down and the next size. And it depends on the size ornament that you're working on. I tend to go with the larger ones unless I'm on like the smaller globes. You know, there's some of these that are domed. So this is like a rounded dome. It's pearlized. This was Crafter's Choice, also from the Dollar Tree. And I had some red ones that I used on my paste ornament that we did in the advanced seminar. So those are domed. I put 3 of them together to like have a group of holly. You could go back and put a dotted treasure gold on top of that. You can also go back on the paste and you can paint in or do strokes in with your acrylics or your treasure gold, even your fluid, media fluid acrylics. Also, I mean, there's so many different things that you can do, okay? But here I chose to use green in the background. I had gold, so this is a traditional Christmas combination on that one. if you use pearls for your jewels, okay, so if these had been pearls here, so like this pearl, then I would use pearls in the background. There again, make sure you have enough of them. Okay. All right, guys, that I think ends it. Like I said last night, I don't spray or seal these. I have went back occasionally and used a little dot of super glue on multiple areas of those swirls just to make sure they stay down. I would caution, I put a little letter in with my little note when I sell these, and it just says basically, you know, they're handmade. Because of the adhesive on the backs of these, I would recommend that you keep them in a climate controlled environment. So don't put them in a hot storage unit in Texas or out in the garage. Keep them, you know, you don't want too cold or too hot, because that could cause those to lift off, unless you want to buy ones that you sit and hand glue them on. But when I'm doing 10 to 12 at a time, I'm not going to take the time to do that unless it's just a color that I can't find anywhere else. I think that's all I've got. So there's just all different types. You know, here's another brand that's got 2 different colors in it, which is kind of cool. So just make sure that when you're buying those things, that you're counting 30-ish to 30 plus on each one. I mean, I could sit here and try to count them. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I've got 13 showing just in that area, and that's not quite half of the ornament. Okay, so that tells you something right there. And I mentioned I would try to sign your work. I use a metallic pen. I use silver if I've got silver going on, gold if I've got gold. I don't think I'd use black, because you don't want that to overpower, and really it needs to be hidden. Okay, I think you can kind of see my name. It's just, and it's easier, of course, to write it with a pen than it is with a brush. Okay. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. I hope this helps, recording this and doing the extra for you. And I'd love to see your ornaments. So be sure and post them, tag me on it. And until next time, I'll say good night and happy painting.